Alright, let's check out the attachment to the cable assembly here. That is the lower part where the new stainless rod goes on, and there's the upper ball joint. Then we zoom out here and we study the upper joint here and the plating required by the client. Same plating across this rod. See the intersection of the new stainless properly shaped rod coming up to the kickdown arm on the relay there. You'll probably want to end up doing something with the relays now that the rest of it looks so sweet. So that's where we're at there. I'm going to turn quickly. Let's take a peek at the assembly. What I want you to see is the cross rod on the right of the picture. Goes into the firewall, comes out of the firewall, takes a turn upward right there. Note the way that the spring is assembled. We have a cotter pin on top of a washer. That is the correct way to assemble that. Right next door we have the brass stopper that keeps the rod at the right length in this aluminum housing that it's riding in. And then the actuator for the back two carburetors with its brass piece. I didn't polish that because I didn't want to be too disco. So that's that. Now the rear assembly for the carburetors. You can see the attachment points. They pivot on that center rod in the middle into both carburetor bodies, and then those little horns that stick out attached to the carburetor throttle plates. Pardon me. And then as we back up, we see the same thing right next door here. Take a good shot of the way that linkage sits, because that is a pain in the rear end if you don't have good documentation on it. This is going to sit like that. Let's see. No, we're going the wrong way. This will end up down here. And something like that between the carburetors. We've still got to put the heat shield on. That'll come next here. And but we want to take a peek at the linkage. We're getting ready to put the breather assembly on. See this, the three breather pipes, once again tri-carb. There's the fuel lines installed on the choke cable mechanism. That is the set of spacers that I'll be using that are factory. It's a thick spacer, and it keeps heat out of the carburetors. It's like a heat sink kind of operation. You can't buy these. If you run without them, your carburetors will have problems when you try to start them when they're hot. And then I use this Permatex PermaShield, fuel resistant. The item number is 85420. That's what I use, and I don't do it liberally. You just put a little tiny bit on, but I'm going to put it on the carburetors real quick here, on the carburetor gaskets that go on the cylinder head. And then you can see the choke housing here. The main choke assembly will come into here. It'll pull on this, which will move these. Ooh. Now we're getting fancy. I put the little fittings on where they go on the end down there, and so that's all reassembled, ready to go. This bracket goes toward the cables. There's the backside. Very simple. This car's also, like most cars, requires some sort of heat shielding, and the other one was shot. There's a side back view. It's got some nice shielding and a steel plate front and back. We have those available, of course. I say they're about 180 bucks plus shipping, but that's what a newer one looks like. And you can see the carburetor holes. So now we're going to find the hardware, the nuts and washers that are going to hold the carburetor parts. They're up there. There's the choke. We're going to find the nuts and bolts, probably on there somewhere, that hold the carburetor bodies onto the car. Then I'll start getting everything set up, and we'll put the carburetors on. We'll get the gasket cement on the gaskets one at a time, and when I'm ready to bolt the carburetors on, we'll do that all in one sequence so that we can bolt it down and get the carburetors all tightened up, and that gasket cement nicely sealing up any possible air leaks on this thing so she runs sweet. So I'm putting this together, and I have this brand new Moss hose. Right there is a big lump of rubber that you got to pull out. See that? That'd be inside your fuel system, and it would get caught inside the needle, and then this carburetor wouldn't be running right and you wouldn't know why. So always look at your lines. That is a critical point that a lot of people miss. Always check those out. They'll trick you all the time, especially with these incredibly poor, some of the products we get now. Everything's made in China, and you got to watch every step. We're putting on our gaskets here, and what we want to emphasize is that each gasket has a little cutout. The front two match, just like this on this whole car. The center carburetor is the odd one out, so you put this on facing this way. It's a little hook. Okay, that goes that way. So on this one it also goes that way. On this one here it goes the other way. It goes like that. Okay. So we decide which side we're going to pick. In this instance we're here, and I'm using my. I was going to use the other sealant, and I misspoke. That's not what I intended to use, and that's more of a fuel operation over there. It's not what I wanted. So just grab a little bit of this Permatex. They call it 83H. I don't know what the difference is. I used to call it 3H Aviation, and maybe the aviation stuff costs more or something. Anyway, just get a little dabble around the whole inside of here. I have fought intake leaks before. Some people will not like that I'm doing this. Don't overdo it. Line it up correctly. That's how I do it. I don't want to hear about it. I'm sure there's a million different ways to do all this stuff. That's how I do that right there. Then I'm going to take a minute. Very swift about it. I'm just going to draw a little circle on the inside of this while it's in place. Keeps my hands out of the way. You don't need to put it in the carburetor. I'm sorry, the intake manifold. Just do a little line like that. So I'm going to do that now. We have, of course, we have a little protection in all the holes so that no bolts have ever gone down into the engine while we've been working on it. We want to make sure we remove those, of course, coming up here. But for right now, I'm going to seal this up, and then I'm going to offer up the installation plate, the main plate, and then I'm going to put some more gasket, apply some more gaskets, and then we're going to get ready to put the carburetors on. This is kind of clean. It's not clean at all. So I got to spend some time. I got to get all that old gasket material off of there. If you leave any of this stuff looking like that, you're on a doomsday mission. So that's got to be cleaned off. If you look at the other side, you can see it's ugly, but it's flat, and the others are all nice and flat. So that's got to have more attention. We didn't quite get the detail crew to get the job done on this. So I'm either going to use, working very carefully away from me, something like this, and carefully work that. Or you might also use something like this, carefully working it away from you to get it off. Or this has a little more flexibility, but it'll dig in a little bit. But this has to be neat and clean and tidy, and so this is going to hold up my operation right now because somebody didn't quite get their job done. So this seems to have enough flexibility that you can kind of just massage it like that. And gotta make damn sure you keep your fingers out of the way though, because it'll just take everything off. Wipe it with a towel real quick. Put a little carb clean on there, or brake clean, whatever I have available. I'm not painting it, I just want it clean. So that's what that should look like. Now it's nice and flat. You can see the problems in it where the gasket stuck from before. And that's just little casting malfunctions and that kind of thing. So we'll just wipe it down real quick and let's get that back on the car. These are our spacers once again. And so I've used a little bit of sealant. Some people don't like to use sealant. This is not a concourse restoration. This is a car that needs to run and drive. I need no tuning problems, no tuning issues, no, I wonder if any of those 9 gaskets are going to leak or not, plus the spacers, plus this thing. Now keep in mind that the heat shield here, I call this thing, when you line it up with this spacer, this aluminum block here, which holds your linkage assembly, if this is not properly set toward the camshaft cover, the valve cover in this car, it'll get in the way of this heat shield. This bracket right here will hit the heat shield. The heat shield will not suck down all the way, and you'll have a big vacuum leak drawing undocumented air through the carburetor on an intake manifold leak right here, and you won't be making up for it by passing that piston. Remember that we have going up and down metering the fuel. Well, if air's coming in back here, which it would if this bracket is not, once again, pushed all the way back, so that this heat shield, they make this heat shield, it fits dead against there. If it's a little bit cocked like it was when I first installed it, this bracket is pushed out. So that's where I took my trusty mirror and I looked inside here, actually on this middle one, but I think you might see, I don't know which one you can see better. Anyway, I looked inside there and made sure that when I pushed this down, it was actually sealing all the way, and it is. But when I first put it in and it was cockeyed, the gasket right here would not have sealed, and we would have been wondering why the car would never tune up and never run right, and what a piece of junk, and blah blah blah. So I'm going to now put the spacer on this side. Once again, I just put enough of that gasket base on there to get it done. Now this is the carburetor gasket. I'm going to put this on the side of the spacer. I've put some of the 3H on the spacer, the Aviation Permatex. I don't want to hear from anybody that doesn't like that. That's what I use. It works perfectly every single time, so do not send letters. I don't put anything on the carburetor side though. I'm just trying to stick all the stuff to the other side. The carburetor bodies are flat. I measured them. So here we go. Now we've got our symphony of gaskets applied here. And immediately, well, we've got this going on now. Okay. I'm going to close the goo. We don't want to spill that anywhere. Just get that out of our way. Now,